welcome to Gadsby's England. This is about as special a Gadsby's England as we're going to have for a long time. In fact, this may be as good as it gets for Gadsby's England, and it might all be downhill from there. I am talking to you, of all places, from Istanbul, Turkey, and he is a very, very great friend of mine, first of all, but he is also happens to be one of the greatest left backs who I've ever seen play the game. Our very own Connor Tibbetts, who you don't know, Gael, considers you pretty much the best left back ever, and he's a Chelsea fan.
Okay.
I'm delighted to say it's former Arsenal, Manchester City, and now playing in Turkey, Gaël Clichy, everybody. You're going to have to I can never pronounce the name of the team here that you play for. I've tried it 3 or 4 times, so you pronounce it.
Okay, so it's very simple actually. We say Başakşehir.
Başakşehir. I think it's the sheer part I can't get.
I think it's the whole name. To be fair, my mom struggled also even up to today. And it's a very new club, you know, it's just came onto the scene like maybe 5-6 years ago. So it's just obvious that nobody really know the place, know the club, and the pronunciation is another thing.
Yeah.
But hopefully, you know, we can. It's my last year here, and hopefully we can bring some silverware so the club can be known a little bit more.
It's such an interesting experience for me. I think what's amazing was that when I said that you were very kind to invite me to a game last night, and it happened to be Galatasaray, which is the one. I mean, just people around the world were like so jealous because it's one of those fixtures, one of those stadiums that everybody hears so much about. So how is it? I mean, what is it like to play in this, the fire or whatever of Turkish football?
I would say that this year was probably, since I've been here, which is my 3rd season, probably the most quietest game that I've played away against Galatasaray. Last year was a decider. The team who was going to win the game away at the stadium was going to be champion.
Right.
So you can imagine the passion and the fire that was that night. And the first year was probably after the game we had 4 more games to go into the season, to finish the season. So the pressure was different. This year, yesterday was still a big game. You know, it's like when you go to France and you see a game in Marseille or in Paris or in England, in one of the top 4 teams in the league. For me personally, when people speak about Turkey as a football player, I think directly about Galatasaray, Fenerbahce and Beşiktaş. So of course it's a huge club, you know, the fan base is incredible, and you can feel that the country, you know, live football.
Yeah.
And a club like this is just about, you know when you often hear people saying that their fans are fanatic, but here in Turkey, for those 3 clubs, you know, the word is perfect for them, and it's a very good experience for me. Very much different from the Premier League, of course, but you know, there is a side that you can enjoy, and I think yesterday, for me personally and my team, you know, it was the first time that they lose a game after 41 games at home in the league. So that was a special night for us and for Turkey as well. But yeah, it was nice to have.
And you hadn't lost any of the old moves. I was watching. You know, you were.
You still got it.
You still got it. Well, I think you know you defended. I mean, you defended very well last night, and I think you know. I mean, it's one of those classic sort of, you know, you soaked it up, didn't you, and then sort of hit them and.
It's a different year. Last year we had a different coach, and the first year also where we used to have possession of the ball and we were kind of bossing the game around, and people in Turkey was calling us Manchester City, you know, the way we were playing. And this year is a different coach, you know, different staff, different way of seeing football. And this is why we love football, because, you know, Guardiola is winning his way, Klopp is winning his way, and Mourinho is winning on his own way also. So this year is a different type of playing style. It's my first time since I started playing football as a professional that I play with less offensive fluidity. You know, we defend a lot, like you said, but in the end, you know, we still managed to be top of the league, and we have a game on Thursday against Roma in Europa League. If we win, we are through. So it just showed me that, you know, it's not only one way to play football. There's many ways, and Yesterday, well, yeah, was a good. Was
Yeah,
a
and
good yes.
I mean, you seem to have adapted. I mean, sort of brings me on to the next question, which is, you know, do you miss the Premier League? Do you miss the life there? And you know, you've kind of said a bit about how it's different, but you know, maybe go into that a little bit more, like lifestyle and on the pitch and off the pitch.
Well, I will start with football, but you know, you will always miss, you know, the Premier League. The Premier League is probably something that any player in the world would dream to touch, even for one season. And for me, it's been 15 years, and I've been lucky to play for, you know, two of the best teams in England. So of course you're gonna miss the Premier League. You're gonna miss those nights away at United, at Anfield, you know, in front of your own fans, you know, at Highbury. You know, I've been lucky to play for Highbury, so I mean, I can go on. You know, the list is long. So you're gonna miss that. You're gonna miss the football because it's a different type of football, you know. But I would say that what I miss the most is the professionalism that we have, you know, in those leagues, you know, Germany, France, England. Turkey is getting there. There is more and more players from Europe coming. Financially, it's interesting for most of us. So of course, it's a place that is growing. But so far from what I've known in England, so you miss this, but then you realize that, you know, you're getting older, and by getting older, you're not getting better, but you still got something to offer to football. And my objective was coming here and trying to change, you know, the way Turkish players, because I'm not afraid of saying it, because it is the truth, you know, in terms of being professional, they are really far behind what, you know, we can do. So my first objective when I signed for Başakşehir was that I said to the president that I hope I can bring something, but not just the way I play, the way I conduct myself, the way I commit to the game, because football is my life. They have great players in Turkey, but you know, it's a little bit funny because for the fans, football is their life, but I don't think that for football player, football is their life. You know, for different reasons, which are obvious. But they are talented players, and you just feel that if they could improve in the way of sleeping better, eating better, taking care of their body better, they would have an amazing league. And I had the chance to play with Emre Belözoğlu, who played for Newcastle, and he's the perfect example of if you can behave and live football as your life, you can play and have an amazing career. He's nearly 40 years old, and he's still playing for Fenerbahce. So that's the example that they have to use, but you know, the mentality needs time to change, and that was my first objective. Of course, after, you know, if I can bring silverware to the club, that's even better. But there is something to do in Turkey, and I hope one day they can realize that, because you know, they have a good generation this year. They are just qualified for the Euro, and I'm pretty sure with more. How can I say? I don't want to be too rude, because you know, I'm sure they give.
Everybody's rude on Gadsby. So
no, but I'm sure they give what they can give.
Yes.
But in football, you have to give more. You know, and I've seen it with England. You know, 15 years ago when I signed for Arsenal, the league wasn't as strong as it is today, and just the fact that now we are more professional bring the game to a different level, and that's what Turkey should try to improve.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see in the Euros next summer. I mean, they've had moments, haven't they, where they've been up in international competition, but they've sort of been in the doldrums a bit. And you know, somebody was saying to me yesterday, there's a similar problem that we criticise England for, is there aren't enough young players coming up from who are Turkish. But you know, clubs want to get the best players. You know, that's the.
But if you see the time where Turkey was on top, they had a lot of players outside Turkey playing in Europe.
Yeah.
And I think this generation, you have this young lad who played for Roma, Jenkins, who was in Başakşehir a few years ago. You have one striker who was at City, NS, I think he plays in Spain. This new guy you signed for Lille. You have a few, but it's just too little to have a major impact on the national team. But they have talented player, and if you cannot send your best player because they are not good enough in Europe, you have to make sure that you give them what they need to improve as a player, to be stronger, to be faster, to be healthier, and by this you will get better result, and that's for sure. So that's the aim for them to be successful, and I'm pretty sure they can be successful.
Mm-hmm. So there's a chance, yeah. I mean, you sort of touched upon something I wanted to bring up, which is that, and this is something I people always have a go at me for. I'm obsessed, I will admit it, that I think English players should play more abroad, and you're perfectly, you're one of the most cosmopolitan footballers. I mean, you have experience not only under two of the greatest managers probably who ever managed football clubs, but you've had that experience, and I wonder technically how much you think it's improved you to have that experience of. Well, I mean, England obviously you were there for a long time, but there's something to be said, isn't there, about playing in that different culture.
But then I will ask you a question. You are 17 years old, English, you play for your boyhood club that your father was supporting, your grandfather was supporting, and the father of your grandfather was supporting. It's a team who will compete in Champions League every year, and if you're lucky to have 15 years career, you will have money, you will have trophies, your friends that you grew up with at the academy here. Why will you go? And you play in, if not the best league in the world, the most competitive league in the world. Why would you want to go?
Do you think then English players find now, because we were not just technically good as, coming up even to 10 years ago, England teams were not keeping the ball as well as, French teams, the national teams, some of the best movement, best passing of any team in the world, and yet you had these players like Lampard, Gerrard, all these, a lot of guys you played with, but they weren't able to hold the ball. It seems like something's changed a bit now. So do you think that whatever's happening in England now, these young players that you're talking about, are they benefiting finally from?
I think there's one thing. I remember when France won the World Cup in 1998, maybe for the next 8-10 years, the football world was watching what French people were doing. Academy, professional teams, and from that moment we had a lot of French players. Arsenal were French connection, and then you can feel kind of the same way with the Spanish football in the last few years. They won the championship, the Euro Championship, they won the World Cup, they won the Euro Championship, and all of a sudden you can see a shift in how you want to play. It's not so much about being the biggest, the fastest, the strongest that will make you win game. Now you see people like Iniesta, Xavi, small player, agile with the ball, playing one touch when they have to, two touches when they have to. And now suddenly you see the football world looking at what Spanish people are doing. And it's no surprise that you see someone like Guardiola who came in and he's the symbol of that football. And of course, when you see a way of playing that gets results, of course you have to question and you have to ask why we cannot do like this. And I think that's why now you see in England that team like United or Swansea some years ago, Arsenal always been like this, City now with Guardiola and Pellegrini. You try to possess the ball because that's the way football wants to be played at the moment, but maybe in 10-15 years it would be the way Stoke was playing 5-6 years ago, long ball and scoring goals. So I really feel that in football there is like everything, there is a fashion, and at the moment it's possession football because it's working.
I hope it stays possession football. We don't want to go back to hoofing the long ball.
No. It is interesting, but at the same time you can see that every time City is playing against Liverpool, they're struggling, and Liverpool are playing a different type of football. Yeah. So it doesn't mean that way is working more than another way. It's just what you have, the player you have in your team, and I believe that's the reason why football is so popular, because there is no one answer, and everyone is up for a grab if you commit yourself enough.
This is very true. I mean, just on that point, you're talking about these sort of dynamic players. I mean, Xavi and Iniesta, fantastic. I mean, young Raheem Sterling, who you played with, is the talk of the town in England right now. He's more than a footballer in many ways, but perhaps you saw him in training. Obviously, you played with him. And he's not big, he's small, he has a very interesting posture and everything. I mean, and probably the best player in the English league at the moment. What's he got? What you've seen that?
For me, that's of course he's growing. He's getting more mature, and without getting into details, his private life changes also at the same time. So for me, I've never been a player with amazing talent, but I've been always working on how I can improve. So
according to Connor, you are.
well, but you have to realize what and who you are, and I think Raheem at the moment is not at the moment, since the last 2 years, realize his potential, because it's one thing to be called a talented player, and it's another thing to be performing every 3 days, and I'm pleased because it wasn't easy for him, but what I see now is that he has that fear factor that big player have, and I've seen it with players like Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp, Lampard, Ronaldo. All those players are great, and they are that great that people give them more respect that we should give them. So example with Raheem, a defender, instead of being tied to him, would give him a yard of space, and that's the worst mistake you can do as a defender, because a player like this would just rip you apart, and he would take the ball 10 times, and 10 times he would kill you. And that's why I love to watch him now, because you can tell that he's playing. Arsene Wenger used to say that a young player with talent is playing with the handbrake, and you can feel the Raheem is gone. He doesn't have that anymore. He doesn't have that fear of missing 1v1 or missing a cross or missing a final pass. He knows that he will make it the next time, and that growing confidence are starting to just grow scared to his opponent, and this is the best thing that you can have as a football player. But it's hour of work, and for sure, like I've told you, in his private life, he's changed mentally. He became stronger, and again, I always come back to this, in football or in life. If you commit to the cause, you will have results, and he's the perfect example, and he deserves everything, because I've seen him work really hard, and today, people are saying that, after Messi and Ronaldo, he could be the one who is taking over. So I just hope that he can carry on like this, and I hope he can prove everybody that what they're saying could be right.
We pray he does, as England fans, And you meant this interesting. You mentioned that you've played all of them. Messi. You've had some amazing games against these guys. You've played against Messi and Ronaldo, and I think there was one where you really kept one of them in your pocket, didn't you? I think you had a good one.
Yeah, but in football, it's not good to talk too much, because I'm lucky I'm in Turkey now, so I'm not gonna get across them.
No, I know.
No, I've been lucky, and I've been blessed, with the career I had, because I had the chance to work with some players within my team and against some players, and I remember I signed the same day, the same season, the same summer, when Ronaldo signed for United. So we are the same age. I remember maybe a few months before that we play against each other with the under 18, France, Portugal. So I kind of had to follow him, because first of all, he was a talented player who signed at the same time as me, and his evolution was just phenomenal. Up to today, nobody has done anything that he has made so far. And even if Messi is perhaps a better player, a complete player, what Ronaldo has achieved personally, the way he changes his structure, the way he's playing. He was a tricky winger, now he's a striker who's scoring goals. You have to give respect to those players. So I've been lucky to play against them. I had some good battle with them. I had some good game. I had some lesser good game. But the only thing I can say, again, I always come back to commitment, because you have players who played 1 season, 2 seasons, the same way that these two have done, but after 2-3 years they disappear, because they were thinking they were so big that they stopped working, or because it was just the beginning, so they were playing without pressure, and then when the pressure comes in, you cannot perform anymore. Those guys for 15 years have been doing it, and this, if you are not committed, if if you don't live good, if you don't live football, if you don't have a private life, a quiet life, you cannot do this. It's impossible. And I know, because I've been lucky to train with people like Henry, Bergkamp, Sol Campbell, and they've been all quiet, men, and they had a private life. So in football and in elite sports, if you don't live good, you cannot have, a long career. And when I say long, I'm talking about more than 5 years, and these two are just phenomenal. Yeah.
It's funny, because if I was going to ask you, like, what would your advice be to young footballers? You've just given the perfect, basically cover your talent. Work, just work at it. Work. It's hard. It's hard work, isn't it? It's that. It's a cliche, but it's cliche. Sorry.
I was coming.
It wasn't intentional. I promise.
No, but it's obvious. And you often hear talent is not enough, and I know it's just a phrase, it's just something that the coach would say, but it's the truth. I've seen so many. I played maybe since I started at 13 years old. I played with more than 100 players, and maybe I'm the only one who made it to a top level, and then maybe 4 or 5 made it to a good level, and the rest didn't make it. And this is just numbers, but numbers that's, if you ask Ronaldo, he will tell you the same, you ask Messi, he will tell you the same, and it's the same for all of us. So you can have talent, but if you're not ready to die for football or for your sport or for your job, you will go nowhere. You need to respect. If you give to football, football will give you what you give, and I really believe that. And of course, you always have those people who will tell you, but when you're 15, when you're 16, when you're 20, you have to live your life. If you're in London, you have to enjoy London. Yes, it's also a way of seeing life. You have opportunity, you can make contact, you can go out, you can buy things. But if you want to be there in 10 years, you cannot do it, To a certain extent, it's impossible. And nowadays, even more than maybe when I started playing for Arsenal. When I started playing for Arsenal, it was the very end of that English tradition where after a game people will go to the pub and drink, and I've seen people like this, without naming names, but I've seen the oldest player doing that. Yeah. It's finished. You don't have this anymore, and with the social media, you have to be even more clean than what you have to be clean in your private life. You have to be extra clean with everything, and I've been a player who made a career out of being professional. So my experience tells me that that's the only way you can be professional. Of course, when you have talent, if you work a little bit more and if you are a little bit more professional, you can achieve amazing things.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, and again, I can sort of relate this to the sort of a mystery and a puzzle, which is England, which is that despite all the talent, France figured it out. They won a World Cup. They had all those years where, decades and decades they struggled. Spain, the perennial team, which just kept, you couldn't understand why they were so good, but they would go out. But finally they got it together. They won it. England have this thing on their back. They won it in '66, and it seems to reverse, that they just can't find, it seems, you'll know better than me, there seems to be some sort of mental block. Surely now we have players, at least they're able to compete. They should be doing better. Russia was great. But you've been around it, you've seen it all. Why, if you could even, in a nutshell, what is it that has stopped them just being able to, win that, get to that semi-final, get further? The penalty competitions, the endless things, they just haven't quite got it there. Is it technical? Is it mentality?
Technical and mentality, I don't think so, because why I'm saying no is because if you look on the paper, you have the best player. I remember that team with Sol Campbell, Ashley Cole, Ferdinand, and you name it, Beckham, Rooney. You cannot tell me that this team cannot win a competition. There is one thing, and I don't think is the real reason, but as a player, I know that going from July until May without a break, is just, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is super hard. And when you put on top of that a week holiday after the end of the season and go again on pre-season for 2 weeks or 3 weeks and go on a competition where you play against the best team in the world, the best player in the world, who have been having a month of holidays. I'm not saying that is the reason, but I played for 15 years in England, and I can tell you that when I'm watching the Premier League now, I'm thinking, wow, you know, this is intense. And you go to Madrid and you will play without, you know, lacking respect to any team, but you go to Osasuna or you go to small teams, you kind of know you're gonna win. Yes, they're gonna give you a battle because they are good players, but in the end, you are Madrid, you are Barcelona, you're gonna win 4-0. So you can even rotate your players, and the pressure is not the same. You come back from international duty, you play away, the weather is kind of warm, and in England you don't have that. You know, you go away at Stoke City on a Monday night, you go to Crystal Palace, you know, even if they're not good, even if they're not half of the player that you are, but they're gonna run you over if you're not ready, you know. And this is super tough as a player to get from July to May without a break. So this is not an excuse, but it could be a reason. And I'm pretty sure that if you give a month break for Christmas, New Year, maybe you have a difference. You have a difference. And if you see, I think there is sport like rugby where, okay, the impact is different. When they get shocked, they really get, you know, hurt, and it can be dangerous. But I think there's a rule where they can only play 1 game a week. There's a reason. The body is probably perhaps not supposed to be pushed the way we are pushing it, you know, in England. You know, you play 3 games in 7 days.
Yeah, it's crazy.
For 6 months, 7 months. I'm not saying it's the reason, but when you see at the team that, you know, England put on the paper at nearly every big competition, international level, there's no reason. So yes, you have the old saying that, you know, when Man City player were playing, you know, with Man United player, they were fighting, or Arsenal player against, you know, Chelsea player. But I don't really believe that, because you fight for the same cause. But that's the only reason I could say. And yes, maybe also a little bit the fact that, you know, you can improve, and if you send your player abroad, you see a different kind of football.
I keep saying.
No, but it is true, you know. At City, one of the coach who is with now Patrick Vieira at Nice, I think did his passed his degree in Brazil, and he told me that, you know, he's not saying he's better than everybody, but for sure he's seen a way of teaching football and showing football and living football a different way that an Englishman passing his degree in England, you know, it's a different perception of football. And he said, so I'm not saying I'm better, but for sure I've seen something that he has not seen. So I can understand perhaps the game a little bit better. I can understand when Neymar will do some kind of trick, and people would be thinking, but why is he doing this? I know, I've been in Brazil, and in Brazil the culture is to enjoy football, you know. So those little things can also be a factor that, you know, having player going to Spain, going to Italy, having a new culture of, you know, football culture can bring something different. But until you guys decide to go abroad,
I know, I'm constantly saying, I mean, we get 1 or 2 now.
It's a point, to be fair, but
I mean, I think you get to know your opponent, don't you? I mean, it's you understand the mentality when you go abroad. I mean, and you know, probably when France play England, they're going to know them probably better than the other way around, maybe. But yeah, I mean, it's a debate. Gosh, we go on. Let's just hope we finally get something. You know, please.
It's coming.
It's coming because most people think not in our lifetime, but
it's coming.
You give us the hope. Maybe next summer. And Qatar, of course, the World Cup is in November, so they won't be so. Yeah, well,
I don't talk about this.
We'll leave it there. Yeah. We'll leave that one there.
Hi, this is Toby Haxey, a midfielder for the Hamden, Connecticut Green Dragons, and you're listening to Gadsby's England.
Obviously, our other audience and huge fans, wherever you go in the US, you know, I can tell you, I've seen Arsenal in the smallest towns in, you know, Virginia and Texas, and you can walk into a pub And now in America, you can have that same discussion. You can talk about English football. It was sort of before, not many people, but it's become part of the everyday conversation. I mean, you watch a bit of the MLS, you watch, how the US has adopted football. I mean, you as I said, you came from two teams with a massive US following, not just from expat Brits, but there's now a huge American following of Arsenal, Man City. I mean, what do you see, do you think, in terms of the future of US football, the MLS, even the national team? What do you observe?
I think it's great. Me, with Arsenal, I've never been to America. So the first time I went was with City, my first year, and we went to Los Angeles. And I was surprised because, of course, like you said, MLS and soccer or football in the US was known for a girl sport, So when we went there and we played at the Yankee Stadium and the stadium was full, it was packed, we were kind of like, wow, they're taking it serious, and there's no secret that you see more and more foreigners going there, not for money, because of course we know the rule, that only free player can get good money, but just because the lifestyle that he offers and the fact that coming from Europe, that's why I've heard from my friend who went there, they are curious and they want to learn, and again I come back to commitment, they want to learn, they want to progress. Okay, it was for girls before, but now you see, it's growing. I think it's the number one sport growing in the US in the last few years. So, they're really curious of how was Guardiola, how is Wenger. We more or less know how these people work, but if you have the chance to work with a certain player who worked for 1 year or 2 years or 5 years with Arsene Wenger or Guardiola or Mancini, Pellegrini, this is a plus. This is a plus for everyone. I can tell by being here in Turkey when I'm training with the young players, I give them advice and they like it. They like it because they know that I've had a good career. Maybe it's a career that they dream to have. And of course, when somebody like this, with a career like example I've had, is talking to you, you have to listen. And in America, they are like this apparently. So I can tell why European player would want to go there to share what they've learned, and I can tell why American football and people in football will want those players, to help growing the sport, to help the sport grow. So naturally, for like many other players, it would be eventually a possibility for me when my contract finished there. I would.
Oh, we'd love to have you, man. Come on.
Well, football
We've got a new team in LA now. I mean,
so what? You have 3 teams then? There's 3 teams.
Exactly. They roll out the carpet for you, man.
We'll see.
Would you?
Yes, of course, because when you get to a point of your career, when you get old, and of course your best year are behind you, you want to play as long as possible because that's what that's what I know best. But also you start to think, and for me this started probably 4 years ago when I've met Guardiola. Whatever happened, he didn't keep me, he played me, he didn't play me, I played good. His way of training his team just changed my whole view on football. And I wouldn't go into romantic phrase, but it was kind of beautiful to watch. It's someone who lives football and every details counts. So if he wants you to play that way, he will explain you why he wants you to make that movement and not this movement, even if the result is more or less the same, but he will tell you and it just makes sense. So, and of course when you see all the trophies that he's won with Bayern, with Barcelona and with City now, he made me want to be a coach, and when you see him you actually feel that being a coach is easy, because it just makes sense. And when now I watch a football match and I see a team not playing the way he's making his team play, I'm thinking, but as a manager, why you wouldn't want to try to apply the same rule? Because I've been inside and it's hard, but it's enjoyable to work like this. And it just made me want to become a manager. And of course, going to the MLS could be my last few years as a football player. And who knows, maybe I could try out, and take, the reserve team of a club and see what I can do. Because in the end, this is why I do it. I live football, and when my career stops, hopefully I can, have some more
I think
years.
you're proving now why you'd make a damn good manager. You've just got into the philosophy of the game as well as.
But it's just words, and I remember, I think it was after Munich. He said that he needed 1 year without coaching.
Yeah.
He needed to recharge the battery.
Yeah.
And you think
he went to New York. I think
went to
for a
New
while.
York.
Yeah.
Yes. He went to
Yeah.
New York, and he said, "I need to recharge." And I was thinking, what do you need to recharge? You don't run. You don't do. It's very basic as the way you think. But then I saw him from the first day in preseason until the last day of the season. Only 10 months with him. I said, yes, I know, because this guy lives his job. He lives his job, and it's not like. It's a little bit the example I can give is like when you have a child, and it's 10 o'clock at night, and he goes into the cupboard and he wants to take some sweets. If you don't want him to take the sweets, you have to slap his hand. On the Monday, and then on a Tuesday he will do the same, and you have to slap him, and then he will come back on Wednesday and you slap him, and eventually on the first day he knows that he cannot do it. But if on the Monday you let him take the sweets, and then on the Tuesday you tell him no, don't take it, and then on the Wednesday you let him take. Guardiola is like this.
Yeah.
You have to do this, and by doing this we will have results. So the player who disagree with me, we will find a way. You have to live, because that's the way I see football. And he is so intense. He will stop training every 2 minutes. He will take you in his office one-on-one. He will make you extra session, but not his stuff. He will do it. And you think, yeah, I'd like to be like that,
Wow.
So in some way, Wenger was the same. But it's different because it's probably, I do believe there is 22 years at Arsenal, and it's a old manager and a new manager, if I can say. Wenger's changed, for me, English football when he came into the game in England, and I think Guardiola changed football. So people will say it's not him, it's Cruyff or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe those two change football in their own way, and I think it's beautiful to when you. I'm not saying I'm going to change football, but when you see this, it's very inspire you.
Yeah.
To try at least to be like that,
It's I mean, it's funnily probably the most inside view I've heard about Guardiola, because when we're on the outside, we're like, what is it exactly he does? It's the attention to detail, the technical knowledge. How does he get them? These triangles of passes. I mean, what that's so different than they have, but it just seems to change players.
But there's a lot of in 10 months. There's so many things. Like example, the first speech he gave us when he first arrived at City, he spoke maybe for 40 minutes, and he spoke about everything except football. And he was coming on with a player with more than 2 kilos will not play in my team. So you hear this, during your whole career, but managers say this just to scare people. But in the end, if the player who is overweighted of 4 or 5 kilos is the one who's scoring the winning goal, most of the time the manager tends to just close the eyes and tap on the back, and there you go. He's not like that. The first week we arrived, 2 players, I'm not going to give the names, 2 big players for City, overweighted. For 2 weeks they run around the pitch, and I was like, oh my God, I'm a guy who's sleeping good, who's eating good, he's not drinking alcohol, and this guy come and he's just speaking my language, in a way. And I was like, this is amazing. He was saying when I look at your team, I see a fat team. I want my player to be like this. I remember he used this, he said, I want my player to be like that. And this is so refreshing, because in football, like I said just before, sometimes it's not always fair the way you want it to be fair, The guy who is not making the most effort is the guy who is playing bad but will score the goal. and obviously he's the one who's going to be the match winner because he's the guy who made the team got the 3 points. But if you take the overall performance, this guy was just useless during the whole game. And this guy is like giving credit for who deserves credit, and the rest is just details. You know, he would tell you in training, you have to come out like that because the opposition this weekend will play like this.
Yeah.
So if this guy come here to press you, it means that the right back is free. So the ball, we need to find a way to make the ball travel to this free player. It's simple as that. It's like chess, you know?
Yeah.
So it's very simple to say, but he was saying, if you can manage in training to make what I want, it will be a piece of cake during the game, because obviously training, everybody knows how we're going to come out, so the team who is pressing, the team who is trying to come out will know where, so it will be harder. But of course, if you can make it in training, then you will destroy people in the game. And well, you know, that's what he's been doing for 10 years
and
now.
It works perfectly.
Yes, I mean, it works, but you know, you will always have those people saying, but Liverpool, they always, you know, cause trouble. Yes, of course, because 90 minutes, everything can happen, you know, even more with VAR nowadays.
Yeah,
but
we won't get into it.
No, it's not. But yes, no, it's for me, it's easy to make a team play well the way Guardiola wants. Not like that, but it's easy to have a team who plays football, but to keep on doing it every 3 days for 10 years, the last 10 years, he had a Spanish team, he had a German team, and now an English team. It's just about details and just wanting to this player to do this rather than this, you know. And it's basically, for me, every details counts. Sleep good. Maybe you've read it in the newspaper, but he said to us, guys, if you want to have sex with your wife, do it in the afternoon. Don't do it during the night, because it will take your energy. You know, it's funny. And when he said it in a funny way, but we know he means it. And as a man, you know, as a player, if you wake up at 4 o'clock and you do what you have to do, you will be tired, you know. And it's true. So, you know, it's every little details, and you're always gonna find people saying, he's not that good, he's spending so much money, so it's easy to have results when you have a team like, you know, he has at City, blah blah blah. It's true, but I know that what he does is beautiful to watch. You know, I know, and if I can be a coach one day, I will try to be inspired, you know, by what he does, if I can, because that's the way I see football. You know,
I'll give you now. You're a coach right now. I'm going to give you the title of manager with any choice. Which club do you choose to manage?
That's wrong. That's wrong.
Or I'll give you manage your country, France. What is that? Is this? You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but
you know what? I know a lot of players had a better career than me, but I know also a lot don't even come close to what I had, you know, in terms of the manager I had, the player I played with, the team I played for. And often the question is, which title is the most important one that you've won with City and Arsenal? It's hard, because Arsenal, I was part of this team who went through the season without losing a game. Of course, I was just a number in the squad. I was 17, 18. But I was playing with the best player in each position in Europe at that time. And of course, a few years later, I win the league. I won the title with City after 44 years. And I'm actually a member of the team. So it's not down to me, because I'm not Aguero and I didn't score 30 goals. But I'm one of the architects of this title. So it's difficult to choose one of the title, because I'm a young boy with dream, and I become champion with this guy that were on, you know, picture in my bedroom. But on the other side, I became a man, if I can say at City. You know, I've learned a new way of playing football. And if you ask me to pick a team, probably I will say Elias Kahn, my team in France, because I don't want to upset anyone. You know, exactly. But City will have a special place in my heart, because that's where I won being a man. You know, if I can, it's hard to describe, but City has a special place for me.
Yeah.
Really, you know, it's very difficult to explain, you know, because in the end, you know, at Arsenal I had only one manager, and they are the club who gave me everything. You know, he's the one who scouted me. The chairman was the one who signed me. So, yeah, of course, I will be always grateful for that.
Yeah.
But for some reason, City got a special place, you know, and that's all I can say. So,
I remember
you know, it's
that
just
day.
weird, you know.
I remember that day. I mean, obviously you were there. They finally won the title. I just remember. I mean, it's interesting because people probably think where everybody was in the world. You know, Santa Monica, early in the morning. Obviously, you had very nervous City fans. There's the Pacific Ocean in the background right there, and yet we're watching. You know, I'm not a City fan, but just I was so happy for them to. It was such an amazing moment. You know, the intensity there, just watching it, you know, was amazing.
But you know, it's funny because I've met a lot of people in football, and again, I don't want to upset people, but you know, the lack of Joe Hart, Mika Richard, Lescott, Boyata, Delph, you know, that's Gareth Barry, that they are players for some reason I can't even explain, you know, but I kept in touch with them, you know. Delph is the godfather of my son.
Is that right? Lovely guy.
Beautiful, you know, but you know, Joe Hart, I'm probably speaking with him not every day, but probably every week. Same for Lescott, same for Richard. And just something special. And sometime in life you cannot explain, you know. It's like when somebody scores an amazing goal and you say, but how come you lose the game against this team? Well, because he scored won the goal, you know, for 50 yards, top corner, you have to clap, and it's beautiful, you know. 1-0, see you later. It's the same for City, you know. Why? I don't know. You know, I had 8 years with only one manager, and then I come to a club where every 2 years we change manager. You know, so you will feel that, you know, the stability is not the same, and you know, I kept in touch with those guys, and I'm pretty sure that it will be like that for the rest of, you know, my life. You know, I will keep in touch with these guys. So, no, it's very.
That's really nice.
Yeah,
maybe get them all together, start a new MLS team, just beat everybody.
But you know, before doing this, we're already trying to get all together to celebrate again. You know,
because
we miss each other. So, but for sure, you know, it's this. You know, like if tomorrow I go and I don't know, I sign for any team in America, and I come across with one of those players, you know, I will be over the moon, because it's, you know, you always look for familiar faces.
Yeah.
And
under the sunshine
of whatever, you know.
You like LA, don't you? You've come out a couple of times.
My wife, she was a New York fan, and I tried to for some years, you know, for some time to like convert her into a LA fan, and I think I finally did it. So I think.
Shall I say she stood over there and
I don't know,
smiling?
I don't know. Hopefully she can.
Gail's beautiful wife, Charlene, is very, very kindly letting us.
So yes, that would be for future, and hopefully, you know, we can have something like this. We can get together, but.
We'd love you to come there. You know,
Let's see. We keep in touch.
Yeah, and then, you know, sort out the movie business while you're there as well. You know.
I have something to tell you as well about that. No, one of my friends, the guy who actually gave me my first DJ lesson.
Yeah.
Actually wrote his first script.
No way.
Yeah. I spoke to him a week and a half ago, because I wanted him to send me a mix so I could listen in my car. And then he told me, I think I'm gonna start quitting. I'm gonna start. I'm trying to go into the film industry. And I said, what do you mean you're gonna try? What is it? He said, well, I already wrote my first script, and I'm trying to find people to read it and to tell me if it's good or not.
Well, I mean, you've done this
so,
for me.
You know,
let's sign the deal, and you know,
that's right.
There's a role for you in it, right? Because we've seen you.
No, because I think he told me the movie is about a guy who lives on the countryside, doesn't have social media, and he split up with his girlfriend, and to find a new love, he need to go into the city, but he doesn't know how to deal with social media, you know. So
Right.
he find one of his friend, a girl, who's telling him basically, you have to pretend. So on Instagram, you have to pose like this, you have to pose this, you have to pose at this, you have to post the picture at this hour, you know. So to try to find love, you kind of have to fake your life to become somebody. But the guy decided he doesn't want that, and I think he managed to get his old love by staying who he was, something like that. So
Gosh, I'm going to be out. I better stick to the football show. If this is well, listen, mate, on that note, I mean, thank you so much. Thank you to Charlene, who's off screen, to let me waste this great man's time. And thank you for inviting me here. The words of wisdom, I mean, player, coach, or anything, I just stay in the game. I mean, I think everybody who knows you, everybody who's watched you, would just say we'd want you to stay in the game any way you can for as long as possible. So you're a credit to football and to the great left back position, one of the finest left backs.
Thank you.
Ever, everybody. Gaël Clichy, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay.